Thank you. Before we start, thanks to Inspect All Pest Services, inspectallservices.com. Highest quality termite pest and wildlife control. If you are in the metro Atlanta or surrounding areas, give them a buzz by visiting their website. That's where you find your phone number. Take care of your insulation. On top of that, pressure washing, gutter maintenance, and more. The Mad Dog, Manny Aurora, based out of Georgia, but can litigate all over this great country we call the United States of America. Criminal defense, white collar crime, DUI, drug offenses, appeals. If you've ever played in the NFL and you get in trouble, you want to get a hold of the Mad Dog. TheAuroraLawFirm.com. You need some help? Get some help. That would be our friend, Dr. David Markwell with Ridgeline Counseling, markwelltherapy.com. 10 therapists in-house. In person there in Georgia, 3 locations across from Freebae High School in Sandy Plains in East Cobb, Marietta near the square, and McKaysville outside of Blue Ridge, but can do virtual sessions. So if you listen outside of the state, shoot them an email, ridgelinecounseling@gmail.com. And then our friends at Capriati Sandwich Shop. Best subs you'll ever have. Promise you that. Find one if it's not in your city, but Folsom, California, you got one smack dab right there. Capriati's.com. Whole roast turkeys, quality meats and cheeses, Wagyu, fresh rolls, and that produce. That's why they keep getting awards across the country. They're the best at what they do. All right, let's start the show.
What do we want to talk about?
And be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Welcome to the Bailey Show podcast, a guy show women love to listen to.
Intellectually immature nonsense.
That's BS.
That's BS.
Yes. That's BS.
Okay, man, let's do it.
All right, there it is, episode 192, your Freebae episode of the BS. Thanks for being here. My name's Jason Bailey. Right there, that is the iron-fisted one, Chuck Lunsford. Hello, Chuck.
What's up, man? I've been single now because my wife went out of town for 3 nights with my children all under my watch, and I can tell you, if you hear something break, that's what it is.
That's always really uncomfortable when there's another guy babysitting your kids in a different state, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, unless his name's Morgan Wallen, I don't think there's anybody else, because that's who she went to see in New York, which I've never understood why you fly to another city to see a musician that tours to your city. So maybe there is something going on there.
Yeah, I think you misunderstood.
Backstage passes.
I think you misunderstood when your wife said that she was going to see Morgan Wallen in New York. I think what she meant to say is she was going to organ swallow. She was going to find an organ, just like a penis.
Yeah, I probably missed that. I probably messed it up. I thought it was Morgan Wallen, but you know what? I just checked his tour schedule and he's not in New York.
Yeah,
so
he's in South Carolina. And there's the B-Man, Brandon Thrasher, the internet sensation. Are people still hating on you, or are they okay with the whole? I know we're going to talk about your next venture on tomorrow's episode, not this one, because you want me to be involved in it somehow. He's going to pitch me something, Chuck, on tomorrow's episode.
I can't wait.
Yeah, but has the internet backed off you there, B-Man?
Yeah, for the most part. Whenever we post something, I've been posting old explosions to the countdown for, what we may have planned here soon. So they seem to be cool with it. Still getting some, views in the millions, so we're doing okay.
Views in the millions, dollars in the nothing. Yeah, that's right. That sucks, right? You become you get all these views and you can't make a living out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I'm still fairly new on Instagram side of things. I mean, it's only been a little over 6 months, so we're hoping people start noticing, like, sponsor wise, and start coming forward doing brand deals. I've got a couple buddies that I talked to that've done this for a couple years, and I mean, they do it full time. So I'm like, all right, well, hopefully I can do it full time.
And let me make it very clear. That wasn't a shot to you at all. I'm just saying it's tough to make a living by doing that. You guys remember Eddie G, right? Eddie, the guy that I did the tennis tournament. He was the tournament director at the Atlanta tournament that I did. He'd come on the show in Atlanta and all that stuff. A very good friend of mine. We're still very close and stuff. His daughter, Gabriella, who's an amazing girl. I've watched her grow up as a teenager, go through college, and and now she's a young lady and she lives in Chicago. I didn't realize this, but Eddie G called me on the road trip over to Orlando. We talked about where I was at yesterday. If you're just getting in the Freebae episode, I'm in Orlando, but the story of how I got here is a lot better. So I hope you subscribe and go back and listen to episode 191, where I tell the whole story. But anyway, so I'm talking to Eddie G. I didn't realize this about Gabriella. She is a social media influencer. That's what she does. Like she's one of those, she's a beautiful girl, an absolutely stunning young lady. There's no doubt about it. But she's not posting these risque pictures, that the girls think that they need to post in order to get internet fame. They're very classy. And she lives in Chicago, and she lives like, kind of like a socialite. She's, always dressed up very nicely. She plays a lot of golf, and she's got sponsors that pay her, just like endorsements or something that, you'd have on the radio or, on a podcast or stuff like that. But she's getting paid really, really well. I mean, when we were having this conversation, I was like, wow, that's what Brandon's got to do. You got to find, that's where you make your money.
I got to be
I
a
think
hot chick.
I was just gonna say where you messed up is you said you got to be attractive.
Yeah, you got to be a hot chick, and that help. Whether you're posting nude or not, people are still going to follow you no matter what. And then like me, I just got to come up with dumbass ideas for people to come but I feel like it's hard for sponsors to be like, we don't know what the hell this guy really does. He just does a bunch of crazy videos. Like, how do we lock him down? Like Red Bull would be what I would think of, but at the same time, a little too raunchy for Red Bull. I would have to do something like a Jackass sponsorship or something.
Well, that's why I tell you, you have to, again, I'm in no position to tell you how to run your social media because I have nowhere near as many followers as you do. But my suggestion is you have to find a personal connection. Like if you look at Gabriella's social media, and I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, but, she's telling a story. It's not so much in depth of her, who she's dating and those types of things. It's not open book like what, I do on these things, but, she tells a story. She goes to this restaurant. She's wearing these types of clothes. When she's playing golf, she's using these kinds of clubs. She's wearing these kinds of clothes, and she's got all these different, sponsorships for those that fit into a safe bubble. You're polarizing your brand where you're doing all these crazy things, which I've got to tell you have been done before. The Jackass stuff is kind of played out, right? So you do it, you get all these followers because people want to live in the moment. But then what happened? You didn't follow through because it was a prank. You lost a bunch of those followers. There's no personal, like they didn't know your sense of humor. They didn't get it, right? If I were to pull a prank on somebody, because people know that I'm very good at pranking people. If I were to pull a prank, I don't think, there would be some, but very few are going to leave me because it was a prank, because I have a personal connection.
No, it happened when we did the monolith video. Did you not? That video blew up, and we had just as much hate from that video that I probably got. I mean, they were pissed off. People that didn't know who we were, they followed for it, but then they also left afterwards. So whether I followed through with it or not, they were still going to leave afterwards. But I only pissed off 300,000 people, so we're still above 1 million, which and I was like, if all I had to do was dig a hole, I'm perfectly fine with that.
But that's my point, is the people that weren't listeners to the radio show were the ones that were pissed. And I wasn't catering to them. I was catering to them for maybe the views, but I wasn't, my audience are the people that stick with me through thick and thin, and vice versa. If I had a two-peer that reached out to me and say they were in a bad spot, and I have done this before, and I've never talked about who they are openly and publicly because I'm there for them. I've given money to people before. I've helped people with their bills. I've helped people make sure that their car is running, and all kinds of different things that I've done over my career. Actually, lately, I just did that for somebody, because I have a personal connection. Somebody, like I had somebody reach out to me not that long ago that's a subscriber to this podcast. We ask for $4.99 a month for all of the content. Some people are like, no, there's free content out there. I don't need this. I can get it somewhere else. Okay. No, you can't get this somewhere else, but yes, you can get free content somewhere else. Absolutely. I'm not disputing that. This is for people that appreciate what we do. And there is a lot of hard work that goes into what we do. It's not just one episode a week, right? We're putting out, well, I'm putting out 4 episodes, sometimes 5 episodes a week. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes, work that goes into this. This is a full-time job. And I had a subscriber that had been with this podcast since day one that reached out to me and was in a spot. And they're, how do I put, they were going to lose a lot unless something was paid. Let's just put it that way. I made sure it was paid. It's just that simple. You know, I mean, it's like, hey, look, you go, okay.
Was it one of your gambling friends that was like, did he owe money to the mob?
No, it wasn't anything like it was. I don't know. Sometimes the government can be a mob. Yes. So maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, fuck the government.
yeah.
My God. And I just say, how crazy is this? This always happens when I move and I'm not set up. Always happens. And we were just having this conversation. My phone just went off and I very rarely, if ever, talk about my core caddy. I just got 2 orders for my core caddy. 2 orders for my core caddy. Moving to a house right across the street where people are playing tennis and pickleball all the time. And my core caddy is perfect. I mean, it's made for tennis, but perfect for pickleball, right? I just got 2 orders. All of our stuff is still packed up. But you know what? Before we moved, you know what I said? I said, I'm going to take some out just in case we get orders, because that's what happened when we moved to California. So I have a box of my core caddies. Actually, whoever just ordered the my core caddies, you're getting the bonus package. You're getting a bag, in my core caddy bag, a t-shirt. I think you're getting a water bottle. You're getting the whole shebang for whatever I'm selling them for now, which is like dirt cheap because I'm just trying to get rid of them. mycorecaddy.com.
If you look, that order was actually me. I just placed the order because I felt bad for you because I know you guys are hurting right now. So
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes,
you're welcome.
I appreciate that. It's very, very, very sweet. Yeah, so if you're tuning in to this episode to listen to the whole story of me getting to Orlando, it's not as big as a fanfare as the Tuesday episode when we went through the whole story, but the whole story is great. How I got here, why I got here, what I'm going to do. Thank you for the internet sleuths. Thanks you for all the comments and the posts and the views. It was a lot of fun watching. It was a lot of fun, trying to give you guys clues and whatnot. And again, it wasn't like I'm so important that you have to know where I'm moving. It didn't come across like that. I don't think from anybody. It came across as a fun internet thing to find out where I landed. And thank you for doing that. So, but I'm in Orlando and I hope you subscribe if you don't, thebaileyshow.com, and go back and listen to episode 181, because the story of how I got here is worth the price of 1 month subscription alone. And especially the part on the road trip where we landed in hell and almost were eaten by the hounds of hell. and let's not forget the deaf guy in Fort Worth, Dallas.
I'm deaf.
Let's not forget my altercation where I almost had to pull my firearm on the deaf guy. All right, that's in episode 191, a sub episode. This episode, because we've got so much going on with all of our lives, is, if you remember, Chuck, very serious episode that we had. People appreciated that too. Chuck was very, very open and honest about, the situation that he was in, especially as a father with his grandmother dying. I mean, she's alive right now. Yes.
Is she? I was about to ask that.
Yeah. So, after we talked, it was a couple days later, we have a crazy life, man. And we got a lot of stuff going on, and we were trying to figure out, okay, how do we get there? I was trying to buy plane tickets, and to buy last minute plane tickets for 5 people, even if you're going to Detroit, which I know is not exactly a sought after location, it was expensive. It was like $450 a ticket to go to Detroit. So I looked at the map and I'm like, look, man, it's a 15-hour drive. If I push it, I can do it. So a couple days later, we loaded up. We drove 15 hours straight through. We left at like 1 a.m. That way my kids could sleep like 6 or 7 hours of it. Now, before we left, the kids were pissed. Like when I told them we were going, this is like their second last week of school, somewhere around there, whatever. So they got major things going on. Like my daughter's giving a presentation as, some tennis player or something. I don't know who she is. My son's got like a project he's doing. My youngest, is doing a project, and they wanted to show these things off in school. And so they were upset. Like when I say, hey, we're leaving tomorrow, we're going to Michigan, it turned into a lot of mad, crying, whatever. So I said, look, okay, I'm going to talk. I talked to them each one at a time. I went into my oldest's. I told her, I say, look, grandma just found out that she has heart failure. She's on medication that's preventing a stroke that they're taking her off of. So she's going to pass away. This is the last time you're going to see your grandmother. I said,
Jeez.
but yeah. So she's either way. I mean, there's like a few different things that are happening, but
Did you not
there's
listen
no,
to any advice that we gave you? Like,
I said it much more like, this is my oldest. She's 11. So she's like almost 12 years old. She's a little bit, I told her like, hey, this is the last time you're going to see her. You need to get this whole like, school presentation thing out of your head and just, think about this.
hold on for a second.
What?
Brandon, you hear my head, right? You hear my head?
Yeah, I think what happened with Chad, I think he took all our advice into consideration, but it just fell apart with he's probably like, these goddamn presentations at school fucked up the
I was
whole
mad. Dude, that made me mad. That did make me mad. Cause I mean, it's like she's crying because
what
she
did you tell
can't
him
do her.
before?
Well,
You
so
just
I
said we're
had
going to
not.
Michigan? You didn't tell him like grandma's dying or anything at
No,
first?
no, I didn't.
Like,
I didn't say anything. I just said, hey, I said we got to go to Michigan on Thursday or on whatever day it was. I don't remember what day it was, but I told him like 2 days earlier, hey, we got to go. And my daughter's like, well, I got a wax. She was a wax museum thing, whatever. So, and she's 12. So I'm getting kind of mad. I'm like, look, man, like you got to go to Michigan. It's a bigger deal than this. Stop. And so she's crying in her room and she's all upset about leaving. So I went in there. I said, look, here's the deal. And that's when I laid it out for her. I said, grandma's got issues that, she's not going to be here much longer. She has issues with her heart. She has issues with, she could possibly have a stroke, whatever. I said, this is a big deal that you go and you get to spend this time with her. So she was cool. She was cool. She's like, okay, I get it. So she stopped crying, packed her bag. Good. So I go to my son. I started having talk with him a little bit more gentle, cause he's 9. I said, look, grandma's not doing well. The doctors say she's probably going to pass away soon. And I want you to go and spend time with her and see her. And all he had to say was, he said, I don't like the word pass away. I don't like the phrase pass away. Can we say she's going to fly away? And I'm like, whatever you want, dude. That sounds good. She's going to fly away. He's like, okay. So then I go to my 7-year-old. I sit her down, dude, worst experience. I mean, I'm talking to her in a way that she understands. And I said, grandma's sick and, we all get old and we all pass away. I said, but grandma's sick and she might not be here much longer. So we're going to go to Michigan so you can see her just in case that happens because she's not doing well. And dude, she gets like and I've never seen my 7-year-old. She got like these big like tears in her eyes and she puts her head in my lap and she said, I don't want her to go away. And I said, I don't either. And she starts crying, like heavily crying. And she said, I just don't want her to go away. And I'm like, dude. So now I'm over here trying to like, I'm the dad, keep it together. Worst thing I've ever done with her. So me and her, dude, I'm like, I carried her to her room. I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, you gotta talk to her. Like, this is rough. So we end up getting them, all where they're like, okay, they're understanding what's going on. Now they're not complaining. Everything's great. We hit the road. We go to Michigan, 14 hours, get there. And the one thing I did before I got to my grandmother's house, which was, I don't know why. I went and bought her flowers, right? So I took her flowers. Now, I don't know why. I know. What's the look on your face? I know. As soon as I gave them to her, it was though she looked at me like, eh.
Here's the thing. And I never realized this until about a little over a year ago. We had some friends that were very close to us and we loved them to death. They were, one, the lady, the woman was Rachel's best friend. They were best friends. And her husband and I were very close. And I think, we don't have heat or anything. I'm kind of the odd man out, I think, of this. But she lost her son. Very tragic, lost her son. And we were moving at the time. And as most of you know, Rach lost her husband prior to me in the military. So at a very young age, Rach had to deal with not only losing her husband in combat, but also the father of her daughter, Ariel. I'm a stepfather, come in, I mean, much years later, blah, blah, blah. So even to this day, and rightfully so to anybody, it's traumatizing. And one thing that Rach learned was flowers bad, because flowers are eventually going to die. I never even thought about that. You know, she told me that because we had gone through this prior when somebody else, actually a couple times that we knew passed. And I was like, oh, I'm going to send flowers. And they're like, no, 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 don't send flowers. Send like an edible arrangement, or send something that's not going to remind you of death a couple days later. Never even thought about that. I was like, okay. So when our friend's son passed away, you know, I mean, I'm always kind of weird how to handle stuff like that on my end, you know, but I'm the guy. So, you know, I'm texting and the nice things to say, and I meant every word of it. And I would have done anything. I just didn't know what to do, you know, plus we're in our world in the middle of moving and stuff like that. Rach is in the middle of moving. Not that that's an excuse not to be there for her friend, but she was trying to be there for her friend to the best of her ability. But she did not send flowers. She had sent something else. And I guess it wasn't good enough, you know, and you can't fault somebody for when they go through a tragedy. You know, you can't, I always say you can't fault somebody for their emotions, right? How somebody feels is how they feel. And you don't have to agree with it or not. It doesn't matter. It's not your choice. It's their choice. So that created a rift between those two. They, to this day, haven't spoken. And it's very sad because we loved that couple. We loved them a lot. Rach still does. I still do. You know, I hope that, you know, especially now that we're in Florida, they're in Florida, we can reconcile at some point. But that was, I guess, when we heard through the third party, the grapevine, was that because Rach didn't send flowers, she was the bad guy and she didn't do the right things, you know, and you just never know what the right things are, right? Because you don't know how people want you to handle that kind of stuff. So it was kind of like a Three's Company episode, right? Where it's like, I meant to, I tried to, I didn't do because I thought I shouldn't, you know, there was no malice involved, but nobody's had a conversation about it. My point to telling you this story is the flowers thing. Send flowers to Graham. Graham knows they're gonna die. Graham knows.
Yeah, but you always got that saying though, like, you know, you don't get your flowers till you're dead, you know. Like a lot of people do the live funerals where they're like still alive and all the friends and family come there, and then they, you know they're about to die and they just talk about them and share stories and whatnot. So I don't think it's a terrible idea to give them flowers. I could see in Rachel's scenario why she wouldn't want to send flowers, but you know, I guess I could see in the other lady's point why she didn't get flowers. But I feel like, because I know they've been friends for a long time, I didn't know that she had never heard that story. Like Rachel never told her, like, you know, I don't send flowers for anything because it reminds you of death.
Well, I don't want to get away from Chuck's story, but
In
Rachel's situation, I think all that needs to happen is a conversation, you know, and two people say, I'm sorry, or just Rach say she's sorry, you know, because I know she would do it in a heartbeat. But that was the point of the flowers thing for you. It's like, hey, here, Graham, I know you're going to die in a couple days. Let me give you something that might die before you so you can watch it die. That's going to make you feel really good. Why did you get her something that lives forever? Like a Willie's.
Okay.
Never.
She'll be like, hell yeah, I outlived them flowers, damn it.
Okay. So it kind of worked out that way because we stopped at a grocery store. My grandma lives up in northern Michigan where there's not a lot. And we stopped at a grocery store because I knew they had flowers. But then while we're in there, I'm like, okay, well, I got all these kids. I don't want my grandmother to have to wake up in them. I don't know what she has. I mean, I know that hospice has came in. I know that I don't know what stage she's in. I don't know what her condition is. So I told Megan, I said, hey, I'm going to grab 3 pounds of bacon. Right. So I grabbed 3 pounds of bacon and the flowers and I come out to the car and that's it. Right. I'm good. So I get to grandma's, but I walk in and I got the flowers. I give them to my grandma. My son is carrying 3 pounds of bacon, you know, in a bag to like put in the fridge. And my grandma like takes the flowers and she goes, oh, you brought bacon. And I'm like, okay. So if you're wondering if someone is not doing well, bacon apparently is what will really make them happy.
Yeah,
and she was very happy about the bacon.
I love your mindset. You're like, flowers for grandma, bacon for us. That's all we need.
Well, dude, it's a hike. I mean, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, bacon. I gotta have bacon for breakfast, man. You know,
there's nothing better as far as a gift goes. Get somebody that has heart conditions to something that can
Okay.
other arteries.
Okay. I didn't even think about that. I wasn't okay. Okay. I wasn't thinking about that, but I
Like, you
got
know
the
what?
bacon.
Actually, you know what? Live your best life, Graham. You should have you should have brought flowers and bacon. You want to know what you get somebody that's about to die? You get them a kilo of blow, a giant bottle of vodka, any drug that they never had taken that they want to take, and the best sex they've never had. That's what you give them. You
And bacon.
and bacon. Here, Graham, I know you only have a few days left, but here's this guy, Ernest, that I met up at the store when I was buying bacon. He's going to pound the living hell out of you just so you have a good Rogerin before you go to heaven. You know what? And then here's some flowers and here's some blow. Why don't you do some blow? Grandma, do some blow. Have you ever done blow, Grandma? No. Oh, let's do some blow.
So flowers and bacon is what I settled on. Now, when we
Last
were
minute, that's all you
there,
can get.
that's it. And you know, we sat down with her. We kind of I'm looking at her. I'm kind of like feeling it out because I'm like, I don't know how bad she is, man. I mean, I know at that point we were there for 30 minutes. People started coming in. It's weird. It's like people coming in and not saying like, "Hey, I'm here because of," but
Wait,
just
did he-
like, "Hey, how are you? Got any coffee?" And I'm like, "Man, your house is really busy." And she's like, "Yeah, it's been like this for a couple days." All these people, relatives, distant relatives, friends, neighbors, whatever. So the hospice chaplain came in, and I can only compare it to like your last rites, right? Like in Tombstone, I don't know if you guys ever seen Tombstone when
Yeah.
Doc Holliday's laying there and they think he's dead, and the priest like says his last rites, and then afterwards, Kurt Russell's character White Earp, he's like thought he was dead, and he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm just exploring the the Catholic religion or whatever." The priest comes in and he's like talking to my grandma, and he's like, and it's kind of getting kind of like weird. So I'm like, "Hey kids, get out of here. Like go play in the yard." Cause I'm like, this is intense. And he's like, "Do you mind if I pray for you and pray over you? Do you have any concerns about where your soul's going to go? Do you have any concerns?" And my grandma's like, "Not at all. Nope. I'm good. I'm good. But you know what? Pray for me, whatever." So he's praying for her. Not me and Megan are out on the front deck, like just waiting. Cause we don't want to be rude and be in there. And so anyway, he leaves, and I said, did you like call and ask for him to come? And she's like, "No, no." And I was like, "So are you glad that he prayed with you?" And she's like, "I just wanted to see what they say to people when they're dying. Like, I just wanted to find out what it was." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So she was like that the entire time. We were there for 3 days. She was very much just like, and like I said, people coming. I sent Jason a video of a cousin that I did not know was in the habit of taking the druggets. And he was out of his mind when he showed
Opiate?
up.
What's that, Brandon?
Opiates?
Dude, this guy, Chuck has got a family member that is everything that Jerry Springer show was in the 90s.
I'll put up the video. It's incredible. He showed up and he was like, he walks over to my grandma and he's bawling his eyes out. And he says to her, he goes, "Well, say hello to my dad for me." His dad passed away like 15 years ago. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, that's creepy. Like what's up with this dude? So all of a sudden she's like, "Are you drinking?" And he's like, "Of course I'm drinking. Would you rather me stick a needle in my arm? I turn to the alcohol. I'm drinking." And I'm like, "Dude, you're on more than alcohol." So he stayed for a long time. I videotaped it for Jason because he was telling me that, did you make out this whole conversation about he had 6,000 followers, but then someone stole them?
Yeah, I couldn't understand him. Yeah, Chuck's got a drug induced family member that shows up to Chuck's grandmother's bedside as she's dying, and in his drug induced speech tries to console her. And
Mhm.
and I always think it's kind of greedy when somebody's about to pass that you ask a favor from them. Hey, do me a favor. When you die, look up my father. Like,
Yeah.
automatically gonna be there and see dad. Who knows? Just sit here and talk to me, kid. Be nice, be cool.
Where was grandma at during all this? She like in the living room on the couch?
Oh,
She laying
dude,
in bed?
she hung out on the recliner the whole time. She's got like a little like mobile scooter thing that she can like kind of ride around. But I mean, to be honest with you, she looked great. And she even kept saying, she's like, I can't believe this. Like, I feel good. I mean, she's out of breath, obviously, and she's having some stuff like that. And, but I mean, the first night we were there, I said, hey, what do you want to do? Anything you want to do? And she said, I want to go to an all you can eat Chinese buffet. And I'm like,
Hell yeah, grandma.
let's do it. So we went to a Chinese buffet, and then the next day I'm like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I want to get ice cream. I'm like, let's go get ice cream. So, and then she's like, I'm like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I want, go mow my lawn. I'm like, I guess I'm gonna go mow your lawn.
What
So,
do
I
you-
mean, it was,
What do you,
what's that?
what do you do if you know that you only have, let's say in grandma's case, your grandmother, Chuck, a week left to live? What do you do in those 7 days? What would you do?
Well, what I would do is a little different. I know I was very, so one thing I did notice, because the doctors told her she can't have salt, she can't have coffee, she can't have any of that. She drank more coffee than I've ever seen her drink.
Hell
She
yeah.
put salt on everything.
Yep.
So any rules that the doctor had given her were like, those were the ones that she had to break. Right. I mean, that was the first thing. The second thing that I thought was interesting was she didn't want to talk to certain people. Like, like if there were people that she enjoyed talking to, man, she would talk your ear off. But if you were somebody that she never enjoyed talking to, there was no polite, like that guy my cousin that I sent you the video of, like she straight up was like, you need to leave. Like, just get out of my house. Get
Yeah.
out of here. Like, she was done wasting time with people she didn't want to talk to. And it was done being polite to people, which I thought was interesting. Cause I'm like, that's something that we should all do, I think.
I think about this a lot. And I think I've brought this up on the show is, I picture myself, I don't want to go out. I want to go out as a hero. Like, I want to jump in front of a bullet that's going to hit somebody and save their life. Like, that's how I want to go out. But most, let's just say I'm on my deathbed in the hospital, like Doc Holliday, in Tombstone, and you get to say goodbye to everybody, like your grandmother's doing, and then you go, okay, well, who do you pick and choose? Like, who, and then you don't want to ruffle any feathers. Like, do you want to bring exes in that you want to say goodbye to, but you're married? That's kind of weird. They would understand it. But then when you die, in their head, they're going to be thinking, why did you do that? Why did he do that? And then you have a private conversation with them without them in the room. It's kind of weird. So now you have rules when you shouldn't have rules because you're about to die, and then those people, what do you say to them? See, I've strategically lived my life where there are a good number of people that before I die, I would like to spend a few minutes alone with them to tell them certain things. There are certain people that I know secrets about. There are certain people that I've done things to, pranks that they still don't know that I did them, that I want to tell them before I die, just because I want to have the last word. So
I mean, cool. We could secretly record it and just say it was your idea and it was released afterwards, and they can't sue you because you're dead.
right. It's creepy about that comment, Brandon, is I thought about that. I was like, God, wouldn't it be horrible if something happened to me on this road trip and we had already recorded episodes of the show? I mean, this is bound to happen for however long this podcast goes. Hopefully it goes and goes and goes and goes. But let's just say something, God forbid, happens to me and there's episodes already scheduled to be released. And it's just like nothing happened. And I'm sitting here talking. I mean, one, a lot of subscribers. Great. Two, unfortunately, I'll never see the money. But two, I mean, it's going to be weird, right? You guys, people who listen to it and go, hey, sounds perfectly fine. Who knew that he was going to die in a tragic blimp accident over the Orange Bowl? You know what I mean? So those are the things that I think about all the time. Like, I was thinking a lot about you, Chuck, on our road trip, because I know the situation that you were in, especially with your kids. And then I've been in that situation where you're with someone that they know they're going to die. And it's weird. I mean, just the whole big picture of it is weird. I mean, it puts everything into perspective. And then you, as a healthy, 40-some-year-old guy that's got his whole life ahead of him, you start putting things into perspective and you start questioning your life and you start doing those things where I'm going to start doing this and I'm going to start doing this. And I'm going to start doing that. And now that it's been a couple of days since you've been back from Michigan visiting your dead grandma, you're not going to do any of those things that the moment you thought you were going to do because you saw your grandmother dying. Now you're like, oh, fuck it. bring on the pizza. I'm going to eat more pizza, but
I will say there's two things that well, there's one that one mistake I definitely made when we were sitting in her front yard and she goes, man, I really wish I had, what are they called? Like arborvitae, green giant, like big, like Christmas tree type trees. And she said, I really wish that I just had a bunch of those in my front yard that I could look at instead of this, she sees the neighbor's house. So I went to a nursery, dude. I spent $4,000 on trees to be planted for her, and they're being planted tomorrow. And when Brandon had asked me, is she still alive? So her 93rd birthday was yesterday, and she made it, and 157 people came to her church to have her party. Now she's not able to walk, and she's not great, but again, with heart failure, you're kind of there until you go. So she had that, but now I'm sitting here going, man, I really don't think I should have spent that money on trees. The other thing is,
How big were these trees? Because she thought,
oh, dude, they're huge. Because I got to get them big. Because
okay, make sure she couldn't see. Yeah, she still couldn't see the house right. It
like there's no time for growing. There's no time for growing. So we're talking, hey, they got to be 8 feet. So
you could have just rented them, rent the trees.
So
they got them.
I know now what I want on my deathbed, hearing that Chuck spent $4,000 on trees for his dying grandmother's last wish. I want, just because I can and knowing that he will do it, I want you to spend $4,000 on popcorn.
Dude, there was a good no with the way she wanted. I get it. And that's why I did it. Now, I wish I would have. So my uncle, this is the best part of this whole story, because my grandmother's, obviously at this point in her life where she's like, I don't care. 0 F's given. My uncle goes, Mom, what are you going to do with your car? And she goes, I don't know. You want it? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, all right, well, the keys are over there. Drive it back when you leave. Dude, he took her car, like straight up drove away. Like, and I'm sitting there going, like, dang, dude, I should have at least been like, hey, grandma, I'll plant the trees. Can I have the Chrysler 300? You know what I mean? But instead, I paid for the trees, and then he's got the Chrysler. So, when people are, I guess she's at that point, man, you could walk up there right now and be like, hey, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that, $3,000 generator? She'll be like, throw it in your truck, Jason. Take it with you. I don't need it. So
your dying grandmother drove a Chrysler 300?
Yeah.
And your dying grandmother gave her Chrysler 300 to a family member?
Yeah, her son. And she has 2 sons, which is the best part. My dad was like, what?
Was your dying grandmother a drug dealer in Atlanta, Georgia?
No, the Chrysler 300 she got because it was actually my sister's car. So my sister was probably a drug dealer in Detroit. And then she had given my grandmother her car for like, I don't know, half of whatever it was worth. But my grandma's just like, yeah, I don't need it anymore. I'm 93. I'm not going to be here much longer. Go ahead and take it with you when you leave. So
wait, how did he get there? Would he walk there?
No, him and his wife drove down. How did he walk? No. He drove. He lives like an hour and a half from her. He lives up near Detroit.
He took an Uber knowing that he was going to drive away.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to get
Chrysler.
Yeah.
Chuck's dumbass planting $4,000 worth of trees, and I'm walking off.
Exactly. Why? That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sitting there like thinking to myself after it happened. I'm like, how did this just happen? Because I just told her, I'm like, I just spent $4,000 on the trees. They're going to be here. Like, these are expensive trees. Make sure you water them until you can no longer do so. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want them to die. And then the car gets given away, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, it was just like the weirdest. Like, you don't want to be that guy that's like, really? But I'm like, man, I don't think she thought that through.
Chuck was coming in as grandmother was giving away the Chrysler 300, and the son goes, hey, you know what? You should probably go install a drip system out there too. Just
hey, that fence could really use some paint.
Just get out
while
of the
you're
house.
at it.
Just get out of the house so I can get some more stuff from
Yeah,
grandma.
exactly. But anyway, it was good, man. It was great, and it worked out. That I honestly, like, when I drove away, I talked to my mom, and my mom said, at least you can say you have no regrets. And I said, that's it. I have no regrets. The hardest thing I've ever done was leave that day. We took her to church that morning and then drove away. And I'll be honest, man, that was pretty hard. When you're saying goodbye to somebody for the last time and you know it's the last time,
That's why
There's,
every time you say goodbye to somebody, it should mean something because you don't know if that will be the last time.
well, it's a lot harder when you know it's the last time.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. Did your grandmother ask you what you wanted when she died?
No. So
They'd be like, hey, Grandma,
I
what you
was
doing with this house?
no,
Oh, you
I
can have it.
was I was more I was more like surprised that more like I talked to my uncle, one of my uncles when he was there, my great uncle. And I said, "Hey, when she passes away, because he lives like 2 doors down, I said, you need to come in here and like lock this place up. Because, now that I know crackhead cousin lives somewhat near there, and I'm like, and dude, I didn't know this. When you go on hospice, they give you morphine
Oh, yeah.
and every heavy drug you can imagine. Like she had a pharmacy on top of her microwave. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, why do you have morphine? Like, isn't that for like severe pain?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I told them I didn't need it, but they told me I would need it. So they just told me to keep it. And then she had like oxygen tanks everywhere. And I'm like, why aren't you using them? And she's like, I just don't think I need them. And I'm like, well, why do you have them? And she's like, they told me I'd need them. So I'm like, man, when she passes away, the right person better go in that house. Cause you're talking every heavy drug you can think of.
So, Brennan, have you ever been around somebody that's dying and they ask you what you want of theirs?
No, see, the only time I came close to that was I was actually in school. I was in 9th grade, and my grandpa down here, who I was really close to, was dying at home, and his his last words were, "I've got to tell Brandon something, but never know what it is." So, like, damn, that's rough. I don't know what it was.
He died before he told you.
Yeah, huh?
No, I can tell you what he was going to tell you. He said, don't blow up the hole in your backyard.
I have a premonition, son.
I'd like to think it's a treasure map or something.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know what he's gonna say though.
Do you want to be a multimillionaire? Hey, I can tell you where to find it. So I asked that question because I've had that happen. My grandmother, who, as everybody knows, was my rock and my everything, still to this day she is, even though she passed away in 99. My grandmother did not have much. She did ask me though. She said, Jace, when I go, she said, when I go, she didn't say die. She goes, maybe she did. She goes, when I go, what do you want of mine? And I didn't know how to answer that question. I said, nothing. I don't want anything. I was like, I feel like if you were to ask that to somebody, if you're dying and they were to actually have an answer, like especially quickly, then you quickly don't talk to them anymore. Like if they already had their eyes on your stuff and they know they're going to get it, or they could possibly get it because you're going to die, bite my ass, get out of my world. That's going to dick. So I said, when my grandmother asked me that, I said, Grandma, you're fine. I'm delusional, right? You're fine. You're going to live. It's a stuff. I don't even want to have this conversation. So then when it got down to she was dying, she brought it up again. And I knew that she wanted me to have, it was going to make her feel, I was her favorite grandson. It was going to make her feel better if I gave her an answer. She did not want to leave this world knowing that I didn't get something of hers that I wanted. And my grandmother always wore brooches. It's an old lady thing, right? Those big things on their blouse, kind of thing. And I said, I want one or all of your brooches. One in particular that had a bunch of pearls. I'm sure they weren't real. And so I said, I want your pearl brooch. She was like, that's all you want? I was like, yeah. She goes, I don't have much money. I was like, I don't want money. I want that. She's like, fine. So when she passed, I got it. And, this was up in Maryland and I was living in Orlando, and I came back with it, and she passed away in December. So it was cold. So I had a big winter coat. And when I came back, it was in my pocket and I couldn't find it. What does my dumbass do? My dumbass put it in the wash machine. So I had all these little pearls in my washing machine in my little condo in Winter Park, Florida, that I had to go and find throughout the whole I tore the damn thing apart to find all these pearls. And I sat there an entire weekend gluing them all back together because I was like, it's the only thing I asked for. And I fucked it up. Hey, dumbass, you take better care of your shit, dude. So when my second stepfather passed away, And he was a multimillionaire. He was worth like 60, 70 million dollars when he died. He never asked me if I wanted anything. And I went and visited him. He has two sons. He had two sons. They got all of his money. His ex-wife, who I think he remarried before he died. Yeah, and I think she's up there now too, or she's about to die. So, you know, the kids got all their money. Their kids, from what I remember, were kind of dicks. Like, they only talked to him two times out of the year. And both those times he stroked him a check for like 25K. And that was it. Happy birthday. Merry Christmas. Boom. That was done. And so I went to go and visit him before he died. And I drove down to Naples, Florida, from Orlando. And I had just graduated UCF. I would have never graduated college if it weren't for this man. He gave me a future, financially gave me a future. For some reason, I don't know if this is normal or what, but for some reason, I got 2 diplomas in the mail. And so I drove down to see him for the very last time, and I gave him one of the diplomas. And I only spent a couple minutes with him. And he was tired and he went into bed. And I remember driving back to Orlando from Naples and just bawling my eyes out, knowing that that was the last time I was going to see him. And then I remember reaching out, or like one of his sons called me after he died, and he said, "Are you trying to get some of his estate?" And, you know, and I'm in my early 20s. I don't know any of this stuff. And I said, "No, I'm not." "What? No, I'm not like that." I said, and he was like, "Well, somebody is." I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you, but it's not me." And somehow it came up was like, "Did you want something of his?" And he used to collect rocks, like gemstones and stuff. He traveled all over the world and collected rocks. I said, "I would like to have one of the rocks from his rock collection just to remember." He was like, "Yeah, sure. You can have that. I'll send it to you." Still to this day, I haven't gotten it, you know. Dick.
30 million wasn't enough. They're like, we're keeping the fucking rocks. Fuck that guy.
Well, I asked my grandma when I got there, because she taught me how to play guitar. So when I got there, I was like, I told Megan, I said, I'm going to find the guitar, because she's got a Yamaha. She doesn't really play it much anymore, especially since she got arthritis and stuff. So I said, I'm going to find the guitar and I'm going to talk to her about the guitar and what her plans are with the guitar. So, dude, we get there and I'm like looking around, because usually she has a guitar stand in the living room. It's not there. So I go in the bedroom. There's no guitar. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, somebody took the guitar. So I'm sitting there, and after a while passed, I'm like, "Hey, Grandma," I'm like, "Where's that guitar? Let's play guitar." And she goes, "Oh, your dad took that 6 months ago." I was like, all right, that's cool. He's looking out. He's looking out. I know what he's doing. And, you know, so I was glad that my dad got it. But that's it, man. I mean, other than that, you don't think of that stuff.
I think that's the last thing you'd want to do. Your dying grandmother that taught you how to play guitar. I don't know if anybody's ever heard Chuck play guitar, but unless you wanted to go quickly, don't play guitar for dying grandmother.
Stupid.
It's like, all right, Chuck, now it's time for me to go. I can't hear any.
Please stop. Please stop. I can't handle Folsom anymore.
No Stairway to Heaven. Did you see the sign?
Did y'all have a scare while she was there? Like, did you have that in the back of your head? Like, what am I going to do if like she does pass while we're
my
here?
biggest thing was the whole time we were there, man, I was finding pills on the ground. Like the whole time I was there, I'm finding pills on the ground. And I'm like, "Grandma, what's this pill for?" And she's like, "Oh, that's my heart medication." And I'm like, "Well, why is it on the floor?" And she's like, "Oh, I drop them all the time." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm thinking she's dropping them when she's making like her little, like, you know those plastic cases? It's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you like pop them open." I thought she was dropping them, she was putting them in there. So then we are having breakfast the next day with our 2 pounds of bacon. And I'm watching her, and she like has them on like next to her chair, or next on her on the table, and she's eating. And dude, she's just knocking like 1 or 2 off with her elbow. Like every time she takes a bite, like 1 or 2 pills go flying. And I'm like, so I told Megan, I'm like, "Is she taking her pills? Like when we're not here, what is she doing?" You know? So I had to go dig up my grandma, you drop this, you drop that. And I guess if she doesn't take the heart pill, I mean, it's like, that's it. I mean, this thing is what's keeping her alive with her heart. But that was the biggest thing we had. We were just like, because she didn't take her seizure medicine once when she was here, and she had a seizure in our living room. I called 911. They showed up, and she's like, "Oh, I'm fine." And they're like, "Who's president?" She said, "Richard Nixon." And they said, "Where are you?" And she said, "Austin, Texas." And I'm like, "What the crap is going on?" So the next day we were in church after we got her out of the hospital, and she's like, I'm fine. I have seizures all the time. As long as I take my medicine, I'm good. And so I'm standing next to her in church, and she leans over and she's like, hey, I forgot to take my medicine. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the whole time I'm like freaking out in church. I'm like putting her down on the pew. I'm like, okay, just sit here and let me hold you. But that was the only thing, man. You just get worried because when again, man, you're that old. I don't think she cares. Honestly, I don't think she cares. At this point, the medicine was like, yeah, they're making me take. Did you know these are $300 a pill? And she's like popping. I'm like, this is stupid. This is insurance fraud. And you're like, okay, whatever.
Well, think about the positives, like all the things that we worry about for our future with our families. Brandon still, you'll have a family eventually. You have, how you have these worries, where's money going to come from? Will I be able to put my kids through college? Can I provide? Can I buy this at some point? I've always wanted this, can I get this? And then the older you get and the less you can do of those things that you've always wanted to do, you're like, okay, I'm running out of time. When you get to the age and the state that your grandmother is in, where she knows that she's going to die here any day, that's a positive, knowing that, you don't have to give a shit about anything. Like I don't have to mow the lawn on Friday. I don't have to take the trash out on Tuesday. I don't have to pay that bill to, American Express.
I should have put the trees on her credit card. I just don't even know if that's I don't know if that's legal. I don't know how that works.
I think it just, disappears or it goes to her kids. Maybe
it disappears.
Sorry, Dad, you paid for the.
It disappears. If you are dying and you put it on your credit card, it disappears. Nobody has to pay it. I don't know either.
I don't know the answer to that either. I know somebody has to pay. I don't know if they take it out of the estate, they garnish your estate wages. I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure you can't. Now look, if you're living with somebody that's your beneficiary and you want to give them a receipt because they've been a dick at some point in your life, or you just don't like them and you've dealt with them the rest, how many years of your life, before you die, just max out your credit cards and leave them with debt and leave an envelope that says, don't open until I die. And then go, ha ha ha, my balance is that off, bitch.
And it's got to be something you buy that is completely unusable to anybody else. Like, I don't know, $4,000 worth of trees.
Trees, yeah. Hey, let me tell you this. The tree story I liked. I thought I would have done the same thing. That's cool. I mean, I know you're going, man, 4K and she's going to die. It doesn't matter. That goes a long way, man. That's cool. And anybody listening right now is going to think the exact same thing. You're going to get some comments on this on social media. People are going to think the world of what you did there. That's way cool.
Well, I'll post pictures of them. You guys can enjoy the trees.
If you think about it, he didn't want to spend that money on plane tickets, but he could have bought the
I know.
I know. 30 hours.
Dude, well, yeah, and
drives off in the car.
Don't act like you haven't overestimated yourself, right? So because you guys have all been on road. Jason, you just got off a massive road trip, and you sit there and you look at it and you go, okay, it's a 15-hour drive or wherever you're going, and you're like, well, I'm awake for like 16 hours a day. What's the difference between being awake and just sitting behind a wheel of a car? Everything. It's absolutely terrible to be behind the wheel of a car and your butt hurts and your eyes hurt and your wife's asleep and you're over there like, okay, now I have all these lives in my hands and I'm trying to stay awake, chugging Red Bulls, and I got to pee every 15 minutes. So yeah, definitely if I had to do it all over again, man, I would have flown because that was brutal. Brutal.
But would you still have bought the trees?
Yeah, I mean, I had to. You have no idea, man. Like she said to me, she was just like looking there and she's like, all I wish I had was just trees to look at. I want trees so bad. And I don't know why I never planted those trees. And I'm like, does anybody even plant trees that big? And I called a lot of places. And then one place is 30 minutes away was like, oh yeah, heck yeah. How much? Oh, we'll be there in 10 minutes to look at the area, and they're marking it. And I'm out there like, how fast are you gonna get them? They're like, usually it's 4 weeks, but for you, I think we can get them in a week. And I'm like, yeah, I bet. Stupid. Especially when I said I'm from Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta. They were like, oh yeah. Yeah. How big you want them? 7 feet? We'll make them 7 feet. And they're like, no, let's do 5.
I have a feeling this story is not being told 100% truthfully.
Oh yeah. Which one what part do you think is not true?
All right.
I think it's really a tax write-off for his business.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no, the trees, yeah, he did it and stuff, but just I've got a feeling that the initial sign off on the tree didn't come the way that he's explaining it. Here's what I think happened. You, grandmother, dying grandmother, and your wife are having a conversation, and your grandmother mentions something about the trees. And I think your wife gave you a look or a nudge that said, Chuck, you better go buy $4,000 worth of trees.
Okay, 1000% Megan was on pro tree board. She was 1000 she was the one that was calling around all the nurseries.
But she's the one that gave you the look. In your head, you're like, I should go get the trees. But your head, as a guy, also said, that's 4K and Graham's about the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But Megan looked at you, and if she wouldn't have looked at you and nudged you and even said something, you would have not gotten the trees. Am I right?
As my grandma was talking, Megan was Googling, and then Megan like held up her phone and like put it in front of me, and it was like, Northwoods Nursery in Tawas, Michigan. And I was like, okay. And she goes, I'm gonna call them right now. We're gonna see how much. It's like, they can't be that much.
You tell lies.
No, because I was in, man. There was no part of this where I was like pissed off or whatever. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit confused about how freaking 10 trees can be $4,000.
That's not my point.
Expensive.
My point is not my point. My point is you wouldn't have bought dying grandmothers trees. Your wife,
I would have.
It was her nudging you, because my wife does this to me all the time. It's a look that the woman gives you that makes you do what you know you should do, but as a guy, you're not going to do it because realistically, it doesn't make sense. But if it weren't for your wife, those trees would not be in your dying grandmother's yard right now. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'll give her 50% credit for this.
No, that is a lie. You tell lies. Full lies in this episode. Your new name is Chuck, Iron Fisted Liar.
Megan was a big part of it. Megan was, but you're married, man. That's a big amount of money to spend on something. And me, I'm like, never in a million years. And I'd be like, Megan's going to go for this. But she was pissed that they weren't going to have them in while we were there. Because her thing was, which I agree with, how can you spend $4,000 on trees and not get bumped to the top of the line? Like, how many people are really going out? Like, really?
They had to bring out a machine and probably like at least 3 or 4 Mexicans to get those trees in there. I mean,
They don't have Mexicans in Michigan.
Oh yeah, they don't go that far.
No, they have like, I don't know, Canadians.
Well, anyway, have you seen people put trees in that big? They're fucking. It's a headache to do it. It's a big machine you got to have in to dig out the hole. It's a headache.
Well, $4,000, it better be a headache.
No, it's a headache. I've seen them do it before. Usually, I said 5 Mexicans in a machine, but
well,
4 Canadians in a machine.
that's why it took longer.
do we have an estimate on grandma or what?
Yeah. So again, I mean, hospice is kind of like, this is great. Enjoy the time you have. As of today, everybody is at my grandmother's house. She has a house full of people, including my father, my sister, my nieces and nephews. They're all there. And they're just kind of like doing what I did, hoping, because I'm not gonna lie, man, like Carter, my son got in bed with her one night to sleep in grandma's bed. And I was like, because
Yeah, that'd be rough.
you know what I'm saying? So now that my nieces and nephews are there and they're doing the same thing. And I told my dad, I was like, might want to shut that down. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. We're just day to day, man, just holding out and hoping for the best. But I know that she's just getting weaker.
Talk about
that's
traumatizing. To a kid wakes up and, Grandma, you want some oatmeal? Grandma, Grandma,
not good.
Grandma's cold, needs a blanket. That's tough. That was the worst. Like going when my grandmother had the open casket and going over and touching her. I'll never forget that feeling. Oh my God. That was the worst. Like, that's the feeling. Like, that's not the norm. That's not the touch of my grandmother that I want to remember. But unfortunately, that's the touch of my grandmother that I'll always remember. And it was it was like a wax museum, like cold wax museum. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. Well, I'm glad everything worked out. Kids are doing well.
Yep.
You know, you didn't think that you're going to be out 4K, but think
Nope.
about all the money you saved on the plane tickets. You know,
And the stress
Yeah.
of driving for 30 hours.
Oh my God. And actually I did call Jason that night because he was driving somewhere on his 50,000-mile road trip. And it was like 10 o'clock at night or something. We were both going to be driving late and everybody's asleep in my car. So I called him and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm road tripping. And you told me where you were. I think you're going to Amarillo or something or somewhere in Texas. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll be home at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was bad. Like I was like slapping myself in the face, had to keep stopping and getting coffee. I'll never do it again. Road trips are stupid.
Yeah,
Don't want to do it.
not a fan. All right, Brandon, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
One question with Brendan.
All right, give us some stupid wisdom of your one question there, B-man.
All right. Well, we talked about the deaf guy earlier this week, and then I think a two-peer actually tagged me in this, and I had seen this before, and I can't remember if I asked this way back when, but I'm gonna ask it again. Now we got Chuck here as well. If you're a deaf person, what language do you think in?
You've asked this question before.
Back when we very first started, I think was one of the first ones.
If you're a deaf person, what are you running out of things to ask?
No, I just saw a two-peer asking, and I was like, all right, because we did.
I
it
have
before.
I have an answer. I have an answer for this, but I'm going to catch a lot of flack. I know I am. So I don't want people to think that like I'm being mean to deaf people. But if you are deaf from birth, you don't know English or anything, right? That's what you're saying. Deaf from birth.
Yeah.
So you're thinking like like dog language,
You think really
like
sit,
animal language, like
hang,
animal language. Like,
Paul.
you got to learn like how do dogs communicate? They use mannerisms.
Yeah, but
and stuff.
but it's like your internal. But y'all have internal voices, right? Because a lot of people don't.
A lot of
You have
them.
internal monologue, like you talk to
Yeah,
yourself.
like a dog would.
Yeah, no, I get it. Here, I think we're overthinking this. It's whatever language is your native language, because you can read and you can watch movies and read subtitles, so you assume you just can't hear them, right? But you
But you
can.
don't know how to pronounce them because you can't say it, so you can't say it in your head.
Yeah, you pronounce them like woof.
Like
Sorry.
I don't know about wolf, but
you think
You know
that
what I
people
mean.
talking dog.
You know what I mean, though. Like you pronounce them your own way. Like you have your own pronunciation, which is just like an animal would have.
But I'm saying in your head, not like when they speak it out.
You don't think your dog looks at you and says you're stupid, like in his own way.
I don't think
yeah,
so.
wolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's in the same lines is, what are your dogs like? If they understand English, are they English? And if they understand Spanish, because I had a Spanish dog, Pablo, one time. He didn't understand,
Possible.
yeah, he didn't understand a damn thing I said. So I had it's the weirdest thing. So I'm sitting there giving him commands in English and he didn't understand it. So dogs speak languages, right? So
I think they understand your inflections and what you want. Like, I don't think they understand language. I think they just hear the combinations of, things coming out of your mouth, and they're like, "Oh, that means this," but they don't actually speak the language.
they speak the language. I mean, I'd say go, dog wouldn't go nowhere. I say vamos, the dog would run. So yeah, dogs speak languages, and I think deaf people speak a language too, in their head.
Which is
Wolf. No. No, I whatever their native language is, because they can read it. So if you're reading English, you know English, you just don't know how it sounds.
so what are they saying in their head? Like, is it English in their head? Because they don't know how to pronounce it. They can't go like, they see read me a book. They don't know what that means. They know what it means, but they don't have the thought of how would it sound.
Maybe
They don't have a sound.
maybe they have their own language, the wolf language. Maybe
That's what I'm saying.
that's the answer. Okay, so all right, okay. So maybe they have the wolf language. Yeah, they have the wolf language. They have their own. Deaf people. You know what? We should all be more like deaf people, because talk about unifying a community. It doesn't matter where you live, what color your skin is, what God you worship, what party you vote for, you all speak wolf, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I want
That's
to
what
be
I'm saying. Yep.
I don't know if that's right. I think might be a little wrong.
Well, you can't ask a question without an answer and then tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I can't. I mean, I'm looking for an answer, and I can determine whether the answer is valuable or viable. There you go, or not. I don't know if I don't think they think in dogs because they're more intelligent than dogs.
I'm not saying they talk in dogs. That's not what Chuck was saying. Chuck's talking about it's a language. Wolf is a reference to just whatever it is, right?
Yeah, but other dogs can talk to each other. Other deaf people can't talk to each other.
They can,
No, you're talking like birds or any animal that is naturally born with some type of communicating ability that they are really good at communicating with others of that type. So like deaf people, I think communicate very, very, very well. But it's also because they only have that visual, communication, which is their own, but we have no idea. Like there's got to be a study on this.
I'm pretty sure the original question is what voice did they think in? What language?
Well, I said dog, but that's just because I didn't know how to.
okay, don't say dog. Let's make up. It's their own language. We'll call it.
Yes.
All right. So
What'd you call it?
So they speak in, they like, when they try to communicate, they just make sounds. And so, again, I'm not making fun. I'm just saying, they're just making noises. They're trying to communicate. So whatever those noises are, that's their language. And we'll just call it, we're deaf. They speak deafenese. Deafenese. We'll call it deafenese.
That was Helen Keller's first word. She's like, "What do? What do?"
God,
You remember watching the movie?
I never watched it. You watched it?
Yeah, they made us watch it in elementary school or middle school.
You
which
know
is
what?
a couple time to have middle schoolers watch that kind of movie.
You know how she died, right?
Got hit by a bus.
Yeah, but she could have avoided that accident. But you know why she died? She couldn't scream for help. She had gloves on.
She had mittens.
No.
Mittens. So close.
Mittens, son of a bitch.
So close. I almost nailed it.
That was a joke from like elementary school.
Yeah, it was. I ain't heard that one in a minute.
Yeah, I know. She never heard it.
Never saw the bus coming either.
No. Damn horns didn't work back in those days. Especially not in Braille. All right. Hey, look, give us a like, share, follow, and social at Listen to the BS. That's the social media. This is a Freebae episode. Hope you subscribe to the rest of the week and prior and so on and so forth. You can do that all via the website, thebaileyshow.com. Also on there, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which we just surpassed a milestone. Thank you for that. The newsletter, which I'll get back to doing now that I am, for the most part, settling in and back in work mode. So you can get all that stuff on thebaileyshow.com. Please, please, please. And as I always ask, share, the snaps that I put up there. If you're part of the 2-peer private Facebook group, that's cool. Great conversations. You guys are diehards. That's awesome. But please also converse on the other socials, especially the BS Facebook page, because a lot of those people don't know what's going on because they're from all over and wherever. They're not seeing those conversations. So the stuff with the show that you guys always talk about in the private Facebook group, also let's get that out on the open Facebook group, and then share the clips, to somebody, just somebody in your network. Say, hey, give this podcast a chance. The sub episodes obviously only on Spotify, so we prefer people to listen on Spotify. You can get all the Freebae episodes, like the Honey episodes on Monday and these episodes on Wednesday on all platforms, but the sub episodes I think are just on Spotify, pretty sure. All right, B-Man, you got anything?
I'm happy Chuck's grandma's not dead yet.
Yeah, me too. Chuck, you got anything?
I'm also happy that Chuck's grandma's not dead. Yes, yet. And my only Spanish is adios amigos.
There you go. All right, look, as always, we appreciate you listening. Have a great, safe rest one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Till next time, check out thebaileyshow.com. Make sure you like, share, follow on all socials. I leave you with these parting words.
Never got a pink slip either. You know what I would get? A guy would come around to my desk and say, "Get the fuck out of here."
What do we want to talk about?
Subscribe at thebaileyshow.com. Yeah, baby.